morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. Today we have our student, Dr. Sangam, who just accepted a pre-match, and he wanted to share some tips and his journey with the applicants for the upcoming season to help you all. So welcome, Sangam. I hope things are well with you.
Hello, Pawan. Yeah, I'm good. How are you
Very
today?
good.
And thank you so much. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Oh,
And
thank you
thank you so
for
much.
sharing
And
some tips with the students. So let's start with your background, a bit of a profile about yourself, year of graduation, med school, and all that, and what you're doing currently.
currently, I'm working as a junior resident in the Trauma Center of All India Institute of Medical Sciences in Patna. I graduated in January 2020 from AIIMS Patna, and I went to med school. I started my med school in 2014. And in terms of like applying for USMLE, I was pretty sure about it very early on in my medical school that, yeah, this is something that I want to do. And I started working accordingly. Like I was interested in research and I knew that I needed some publications as a part of my USMLE journey. So I think from my first professional or first MS1 itself, I started working on research. I did my first project in biochemistry, which was both lab-based and clinically oriented project on diabetes mellitus, and then some others as well in ENT. I got two Indian Council of Medical Research grants, which is something called short-term studentships for medical students. So it was sort of a research grant. And then I also like founded a innovation club with my friends and my faculty members, which has recently been funded by the government of India, and
Ah,
it is to be turned into a full-time healthcare health tech startup incubator at AIIMS Patna.
interesting.
So yeah, so like these are all the things that I did, and like some of these were, yeah, I mean, it started out as as like these are the things that I would need as a part of my USMLE journey, but like they became a passion, and then there I was at the end of my med school and now staring at my step one and step two exams. So the I think one thing that I did like wrong, or I delayed my step one. So ours was the only school, medical school perhaps, I think, in India where we had pro, a professional examination in orthopedics. So AIIMS are autonomous, so they have these powers to set their own curriculum. So third, like we had a pretty hectic internship as well. So I put it off until the end of my internship, and then COVID hit. So that delayed my step one even further. So when I put in my application for step one exam, which was in March 2020, it was around the same time when the epidemic became the pandemic and offices started shuttering. India was also not put under lockdown. And so that delayed my step one. And the visa thing also, I think I applied for a visa pretty late after I finished my medical school, which in the hindsight, I should have done early. And to all the applicants, people who have given their step one in India or wherever they are, I would say that apply for a visa, because you need hands-on US clinical experience for match, and that is with step one becoming pass and fail, step three and US clinical experience and research. These three things have become really, really important. I cannot emphasize enough how important these three things are. Step two scores now matter a lot, and so I had earlier planned to apply last year, like not in this math cycle, like previous math cycle, but I did not have a visa. I did not have any US clinical experience. So I decided to not to apply,
Yeah.
because the match process is also pretty expensive, and like money was an issue for me. So I had like with in terms of money wise, I think I only had one shot. So I decided to play it safe and I did not apply that cycle, and I applied next cycle with clinical experience. I still did not get a visa in time to get an in-person US clinical experience, but I had plenty of tele rotations. I had some pretty good tele rotations. I did one at with a hematology oncologist at UCSD, University of California, San Diego. I did one in Detroit, which was, I think as hands-on as it could be in terms
Yes.
of tele rotations, and one in Orlando, Florida, which was the same. But I think, so, and I went to these rotations through Sarthi. I got my letter of recommendations, and I was able to apply on time. And luckily enough, I have never been to the US, like not once in my life, and I got a pre-match offer in New York City. So
No, this is amazing journey. Even when the after the pandemic ended, you managed to match without on-site USCE based on tele rotations, number one. And this is, I think what you outlined was even in tele rotation, if you can get similar to hands-on, EMR access, which I know
mhm,
you did in Detroit, patient interaction. So it can cover up for people who do not have the visa. But this is very impressive that you managed to get a pre-match offer. That means other aspects of your profile must have been very, very strong. And I'm curious, you spoke about your volunteering activity, especially the startup or the incubator that you started at AIIMS. So tell us something more about it. How uh, did you use this experience in your CV, and why students should go for more of these? So you spoke about the importance of CK, importance of research, which is very important, of course, now with step one pass fail. But I'm curious to know about your incubator experience also. How did you use it?
so like that was one thing. Like if you look at medical schools all over the United States or the UK or in any developed countries, say Stanford. So Stanford has its own school of biodesign. In fact, Stanford is a pioneer in the field of biodesign. And these medical schools, they are looking to increasingly find new ways to solve variety of issues. Like say my program is in New York City, right? And they, a lot of my interview, it was about what the problems are in the community, because they are really focused on how to solve community specific healthcare issues, right? And a part of my innovation club, which is which was called Avishkar at AIIMS Patna, was that how to solve these issues around our community, let's say around AIIMS Patna and in Bihar and in India in general. So I suppose that is the same with that is something that you can do everywhere in the world, right? And these programs, these universities, they're increasingly looking to, I think, people who can bring something extra, like you have, which can solve the local issues as well. Like they're looking for commitment, So wherever you are applying to, they want to know that you can bring what, because every candidate these days, like, most people have amazing scores, or they'll have a variety of in US clinical experience. And in the interviews as well, I think I was the only one who was sitting in India. Rest of them, everybody was in the US. It was a virtual interview, but everybody was in the US. Pretty much, people who had been doing research at Mayo for last 2 3 years. So I think this was something extra that I had brought to the table. Like this was something that nobody else had.
So yes,
And
exactly, and this is why this is very impressive. Like you said, everyone should do research, everyone should do US clinical experience, but you had the constraint of no visa, so you had to
yeah.
overcome that. And I think this startup or the incubator effort that you put in must have been very impressive, and the programs must really have liked it.
Mhm. Yeah, I think so too. Because in my interview, I had a pretty extensive discussion on, how to go about these ideas. Like I had one project that I had done, which had ultimately failed. Like we could not get a programmer, so it ultimately failed. But I had a pretty extensive discussion about over that with one of my interviewers, and he was quite impressed with it, with the idea, with how we had planned to do that. And even with my in the interview with my program director, she was, like we had a very detailed conversation about my innovation club, and how, my thought process as to how I could identify problems in the community, and how I could help, find solutions, feasible solutions for them. So I
Very,
did have this conversation.
very impressive. Very impressive. Okay, so moving forward, you were a Sarthi student, like you said, you did
Hmm.
rotations as well,
Yes.
and of course match with us. So how did you utilize Sarthi resources in this season?
So I had help from a couple of my friends, but most of the time I relied on Sarthi resources. Like when it came to CV or finding rotations or review about rotations. Even I think I messaged you and emailed you extensively regarding feedback on rotations, like the one in Orlando or Detroit. I asked you very,
Right.
like, so I used a lot of Sarthi rotation because, I had to make sure that I could not be there in person to see what kind of hospital it was, or uh, I did not know people who had done the rotation from there. So I relied heavily on Sarthi to find out what type of rotation it was, the feedback, whether I would be getting access to EMR or not, where I would be, actually seeing patients or not, or would it just be didactics? And then even when it came to the application, before I filled out my ERAS application, I of course went through the ERAS workbook that they have, but I watched every Sarthi video from ERAS application to ERAS CV to even, there are how to prepare for interviews, how to answer interview questions. So I went through all of it. Ultimately the interview is also a conversation, like you cannot have pre-made answers, and you never know that. So yeah, so the practice with you, the practice sessions with you, that those were really helpful. I think I participated somewhat less, but I observed a lot, I prepared my answers, I practiced with my friends. So those things were pretty helpful. I think interview, when it comes to interview, I think Sarthi resources are really good. And the ERA CV part, those also helped me a lot. I did not watch the what to do in rotations for a video, but I think that was also, I watched it pretty late when I was about to finish my rotations, because I had my friends who had done similar Sathi rotations last year, and so I was in regular touch with them. So I would talk to them what to do, what not to do in rotations, on tele rotations. So that part I covered with my friends, but later on when I watched the Sarthi video, I thought that okay, so this is all, very concise things, that concise points, that what should be done and what you should be expected of rotation. So it's pretty good. And now with the app coming in, I think I find it very helpful. You just download it and you can watch it anytime.
Yep. So
And the Sarthi,
go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, please go on. Yeah,
No, no,
and
go
the
ahead.
Sarthi group, the Sarthi group, the Telegram group that we have, the closed Sarthi group. So I asked very few questions. I just had to go through the group. I usually, what I did was just search in the group and I would find the answer. So like it's pretty extensive, and it's sort of a data bank for my answers. So I just, most of the time I would just, search in the group and I would find my answers, like doubts about what to do, or
No, this is good. Thank you. Uh, the last question as we wrap up, what are your tips, your top 3 or 4 tips for applicants going into the season now, 9 months to go? What should they be doing? What have you learned from your experience that you want to share?
so I think other than, exams like step one and step two and OET, which is the bare minimum for an ECFMG certification, like you really need to focus on your step two CK scores. I would suggest that do step three, because I'm about to give my step three very soon. But if you give it before the start, before your application goes out, you'll definitely see a jump in the number of interviews that you are getting. Step three is becoming important because step one is now pass fail, so programs need step three. And even earlier, step three, I think people who have given their step three, they got more interviews. Like that is the reality of it. And even if, like, let's say that the applications have gone out, but if you can give your step 3 by December, it will help you with your rank order list. That is the reality of things. Like, programs have to have some objective measure to rank you
Correct.
on the rank order list. So
Mhm.
step 3 helps you with that. And the second thing is, in US clinical experience, if you can do it, if you have a visa, then definitely go and do it. Get as much as of it as you can. I think there are three minimum LORs that are required for applying to the match, but I would suggest that get, I think, 6 months of US clinical experience. And when you have like 6 or 7 months of US clinical experience and you have a mix of it, say hands-on at hospitals or clinics, then like major universities won't really offer you hands-on clinical experience. So you can get a couple of observerships from, say, Cleveland Clinic or Mayo or wherever. So I think a mix of US clinical experience, step 3, and research.
Mhm.
And research is US research, not outside, like research that has been done in the US, or PubMed index articles if you have done your research outside of the US. I think these three things, with step 1 going pass fail, and these three things have become increasingly uh, important.
So these are the things that help you get the interview. But I think what we discussed earlier was your initiatives, the volunteering,
Mhm.
or those startup kind of projects that someone could have. I think they would help you definitely have a good conversation during the interview. Do you agree?
Yeah, of course, definitely. I mean, like, if you can volunteer with the Red Cross in uh, Africa or India right now, or any such place, I would say, like, go on. Just do it. Don't think twice about it. But what I want to emphasize is that don't do it at the cost of your, medical school or
Correct.
your step exams. So do it on the side, right? Like, my innovation club, we did it with our coursework. We did it while we were in medical school. We used to study, then we had set some time aside for it. Like, say, we had weekly club meetings and all. We had a schedule for the entire year in which we used to organize events, and we called a variety of people. Our mentors were from IIT, Indian Institute of Technologies in Patna, Hyderabad, to our chief mentor, who is now in King's College London. He was the founder of School of International Biodesign of IIT Delhi and AIIMS Delhi in India. So you should plan ahead, and these are things that you can do way early in medical school. Like, if you're in second or third year of your medical school, or say if you are doing something like an MPH. Like, I met a couple of people in my tele rotations who were doing a master's degree in the US. So master's degree either in MPH or some global health or some related field. So if you're doing such things, then you can, on the side, you can volunteer, you can try and do some bio design or related things. So these things do help you out. And I think one more aspect was that the MRCP exams, because MRCP is a degree in itself. So I think though having a MRCP can also help you out, but in getting interviews and in talking about, but MRCP will, I think, not help you much in the interviews, but rather in getting more
Getting
interviews.
the interview. Okay.
Yeah, and there are like COVID related research is still going on right now, say vaccine trials. I had the opportunity, like, AIIMS Patna is one of the centers where co-vaccine trials was going on, but I could not join it for some personal reasons. So you have such an opportunity, do join it, but not at the cost of your step exams, USMLE. Those are still the most important things.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Sangam. Much appreciate your guidance and your tips for the upcoming season for the applicants, and good luck for your residency training.